Okay, welcome everyone. I'm Christine Biglin with St. Mary's County Library, and tonight we're going to learn all about bluebirds with Barb Whipkey, the owner of Wild Birds Unlimited in La Plata and Lexington Park. Welcome, Barb.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining us tonight. Tonight I'm going to share a PowerPoint. So let me go to share screen here and bring that up. Okay, so by the time we're done tonight, you are all going to be hummingbird whisperers. We're going to go through everything and even show you how you can hand feed a hummingbird. So this is one of the setups here in my backyard. See. Back here. See if it wants to, here we go. Of course, those crows are being noisy in the background there too. So you probably hear a lot or you've seen that hummingbirds like to hoard a feeder. And that's very true. The reason you're seeing that they're a little more willing to share is that this setup here is later in the summer. So you're not seeing a lot of hummingbirds with red on the neck. This is a lot of juveniles and females at the feeders because our males at this point have already left and headed south. So those juveniles and those females are a little bit more willing to share than those males who are very territorial. But what you want to do in the beginning is you're going to put up single feeders and spread them out. Then as the season goes on, you can start to add multiple feeders in a single location. And it gets harder for those birds that are extremely territorial to hoard. So I mentioned the red throats there. On the left, that is your male. We typically only have ruby-throated hummingbirds here in Southern Maryland. I will show you another species of hummingbirds. If you see those, you're typically only going to see those late in the summer. We'll talk about those more. But this summer, the hummingbirds you're going to see are pretty much all going to be ruby-throated hummingbirds. It would be very rare to see something else. However, they are going to trick you. And sometimes that red's going to look like the neck is black. Sometimes it'll look green. That's actually just the light playing tricks on you. So if there's red on the neck, that is a male. If it's white, it's a female in the beginning. After they have nested, then it gets a little more challenging to tell because those babies, when they first leave the nest and start coming to your feeder, they're all going to have the white neck. So then it gets a little bit hard to tell. The way you can at first tell is their little tails are going to be shorter. A lot of people will think, oh, that's a small one. That's got to be a baby. And they're really, when songbirds leave the nest, they're the same size as the adults. Again, it's your eyes playing tricks on you because that tail is not fully grown in and a lot of the other feathers haven't fully developed. So they tend to look smaller. So if you can get your eyes to quit playing tricks and pay attention to whether they have a short stubby tail, you may then notice that, oh, wait a minute. That one has a white throat and a short tail, so that one is probably a juvenile. In the beginning, you won't really be able to tell if it's a female or a male, but with time, you'll start to notice that there's some little gray streaks on the white. If there's gray streaks, that's a male hummingbird, a male juvenile hummingbird, and those whites are going to turn into the red there. Okay, but in the beginning, when they first get here, very easy to identify. If it's a red on the neck, it's a male, and if not, it's a female. And they're all pretty much going to be ruby-throated hummingbirds. It would be very, very unusual to see something else. Now, come late summer, if after October you see a hummingbird, then we're going to ask that you try to get some pictures of that hummingbird, both from the front and from the back side where we can see the tails. Send them to us so that we can try to get an ID on them. And when I say get an ID, I'm not the hummingbird expert. I'll be sending those up to the real experts to try to ID those. If you're fortunate enough to have a rufous hummingbird visiting you, they may even winter over with you. And in that case, we'll work with you. We sell hummingbird heaters that you can put on your hummingbird feeders because obviously insects are not plentiful. There's not a lot of natural food sources out there for them. They are more of a cold weather hummingbird, so they're more used to the cold weather. However, our area just doesn't have a lot of natural food sources. But if you do get one of those, if it's okay with you, we may try to get the hummingbird bander to even come down and band your hummingbird, because if they do come to visit you, there's a good chance they may come back and visit you again next winter. So again, if after October you get a hummingbird to visit you, please try to get us some good pictures, the best you can get, and send those to us so that we can try to get a positive ID on those for you. But through the summer, it's just a pretty much blanket assurance you're seeing ruby-throated hummingbirds. And then a few hummingbird facts, as we talked about, pretty much on the East Coast, it's ruby-throated hummingbirds is what we have. A hummingbird weighs less than a nickel. So if you think about the weight of a nickel, the next time you get some change, just kind of pay attention to how light it is. And that is actually what a hummingbird weighs. Here in Southern Maryland, hummingbirds arrive early April to late September. We did just get a report of the first sighting in Belle Alton of a hummingbird. So they are starting to arrive. In the past, we used to say, put your hummingbird feeders up the middle of April. So we used to say tax day. We've changed that to April Fool's Day now because we've noticed over the last couple of years that they have started to arrive in the first week of April. So if you don't have a hummingbird feeder up, tomorrow's a great day to get that hummingbird feeder up. You don't have to fill them all the way up. If you're using this style of hummingbird feeder, that hummingbird's tongue will reach all the way to the bottom of that. That little tongue is crazy long and will go all the way to the bottom. So you can just put a small amount in there because in the beginning, you're going to be changing it often before they drink the whole thing. So just put a small amount in there, put it out in about a week to 10 days, depending on how hot it is. You'll need to change that nectar. So just a small amount, just so they find something when they do arrive. Another little fun fact about hummingbirds is their feet are only used for perching. So they don't, where a lot of our birds will use their little feet to feed themselves or to walk on the ground, to hop along a branch. A hummingbird only uses theirs to perch. So it is for no other purpose. And then if you look at that little hummingbird on the swing there, these are a cool little thing that you can put out for hummingbirds. It is actually just a swing. The hummingbird's not going to sit there and actually swing, but because of their rapid movements, they're looking around, watching their feeders, you can place something like this nearby the feeder, put it in a visible location where you can see it from the window where you tend to watch the birds a lot. They'll use that as their lookout point, and then you get to spend more time watching them. And then when they do those little erratic movements, it will naturally swing. So you do get to see your hummingbird swing. So that's just a fun extra way. And then you've got the little bright color red. That's just another way to attract them in. A hummingbird can live up to 9 years, and then they tend to winter over in southern Mexico and northern Panama. A hummingbird will flap their wings about 53 times per second. Notice I said second, not per minute. So that is just an unbelievable amount of time. When they're flying, normally they're flying about 30 miles per hour. But if they're in a situation where they're trying to escape, so another bird has come in, a predator, somebody who's coming after them when they're trying to get to their feeder, they're going to take off at about 50 miles per hour. A hummingbird can fly right, left, backwards, down, up, and even upside down. So if they're on that perch and they decide to take off this way, they actually can go off upside down, which is what makes them such an attractive little bird. A hummingbird there's something called a spark bird, and that's that bird that gets people first interested in watching birds and becoming interested in feeding birds. And hummingbirds are one of those birds that are a lot of people's spark bird, that bird that first got them interested in bird feeding. And that's one of the reasons, because they are just so amazing with their little acrobatics that they do. They're also able to hover. So I know you've seen them hovering at feeders, a lot of feeders, whereas this one has a perch for them to actually sit and eat. A lot of feeders don't have those perches, so they kind of have to sit there and hover. And they do that hovering by moving their wings in a figure-8 pattern. That's what allows them to hover. So if you can offer a feeder that has a perch, you're actually going to help them expend less energy because they can perch and eat. And of course, you get to spend more time enjoying them. And then their diet. So of course, we know they eat nectar, but they also tree sap, insects, pollen, and they eat about 50 times a day. So you think how often we see them at our feeders, but then they're also out going after the tree sap, the insects, the pollen, and they're eating in large quantities. So if you drank the way a hummingbird drinks in proportion, every time you picked up your water bottle to take a drink, you would be knocking down about a gallon at every drink. Kind of crazy, right? And then the reproduction and lifestyle. So when they first start arriving, we're going to see the ones with the red necks because that's the males. Actually, those first ones that come are going to fuel up with you for a few days and then they're going to disappear because those ones are just using your feeders as a convenience store. They're just stopping by to refuel, and then they're going to head further north and find a territory. And that's going to continue to happen until the ones arrive that are going to stay with you. The first ones that stay will be the males. So the ones with the red throat, they're going to choose a territory. So once they get here and you notice that they've been with you several days and they don't seem to be moving on, then you'll start watching because next you'll see your females arriving. Those males are going to mate with every female who enters their territory. During the courtship, a male's wings are going to move twice as fast as the normal. And if you remember, the normal rate was 53 beats per second. So imagine how fast those wings are going now during his courtship ritual. And then after the mating, the female just moves on, or I'm sorry, the male just moves on to the next female. It is up to the female to build the nest, to lay the eggs, protect the eggs, raise those young, provide the food. So during that time, we start to hear people saying, I don't have as many hummingbirds as I did. That's because those females are not coming to the feeders as much as they were. If they're in a tree over there, they're finding food closer to that nest because they don't want to travel far from the nest because there's nobody to look after that nest. With most of our songbirds, the mates help protect the nest. They don't have that luxury. They're working as single moms to raise those young. And that nest that they build is the size of a large thimble. So if you think back to how big a large thimble is, that's not very big at all. They're going to put them 10 to 40 feet in a shrub or tree. Typically, it's going to be in the little fork of a branch made with thistle or dandelion. You can actually put out a nesting material, something like this. This one has a red on it, so it helps to attract them in. And then they're going to wrap it with spider webs. So if you see your hummingbirds gathering spider webs, it's not that they're stuck in it. They are grabbing that spider web that they're going to wrap around that nest because that spider web will expand. So when those babies hatch, that nest is going to expand, still hold those babies snug. It will expand to about the size of a walnut, but it's going to help to hold those babies snug in the nest. It'll take her about 6 to 10 days to finish the nest. Nests have been found in some really crazy places, loops of chain wire, extension cords. I kind of like to hope that that's in the bigger city areas where there's not a lot of options for them. Not here in Southern Maryland, where fortunately we are still rural and have a lot of trees and natural places. She is going to lay 1 to 3 eggs. And by the way, she's going to do this twice while she's here. So if you can get started now feeding your hummingbirds, keeping your nectar fresh, and do that the entire season, every female you have is potentially going to bring you 2 nestfuls of baby. Next year, those babies are on your GPS, so they're coming back to see you again next year. So you can see how year over year your hummingbird population will increase. So she'll lay those 1 to 3 eggs. She'll then sit on those eggs for 12 to 14 days. And those babies then will leave the nest in 18 to 22 days. And as I mentioned, she's going to do that twice while she's here. Good luck finding the nest. We've had a couple customers who have been able to find the nest just by watching when they come to the feeder where they're going and just continually watch where they're going and have been able to find the nest. But, you know, if you think about that, thimble to walnut size, that's pretty tiny. And then what threats do the hummingbirds have? I mean, obviously, as with all songbirds, pesticide, that's just a big one with any of them. You know, talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends, try to reduce the use of pesticides. I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here. Habitat loss and destruction. Try to leave as many bushes and trees as you can. Small birds of prey, like our American kestrel and sharp-shinned hawk, that one's kind of a natural predator, so there's not a whole lot you can do about that one. However, leaving those trees and shrubs do give them a place to hide. Praying mantises is one not a lot of people are aware of, but praying mantises will get on a hummingbird feeder like you're seeing in that picture and just lay in waiting for those hummingbirds to come. So if you see that, if you can shoo that praying mantis away, take that hummingbird feeder out to the woods or out somewhere to a grassy area and kind of send it on its way. Don't kill it or anything, but just send it away from your hummingbird feeder. I didn't include any pictures here, but if you're doubtful that that really is possible for that little praying mantis to do, you can Google it and go look, but I promise you it's a very real hazard to them. Snakes and lizards are another one. We had a customer come in here a couple years ago and tell us, if you think about the shepherd's crook, the black shepherd crook, she had a snake wrapped around there. And she went to get her hummingbird feeder down, and just in time, the snake moved a little bit. So she realized she had a snake wrapped around that shepherd's crook waiting to get the hummingbird. So for that reason, we have often recommended adding weather guards just to help keep your nectar cool, to protect them from rain, for extra spots of red. We actually have added now as an extra layer of protection to keep those snakes from being able to camouflage themselves as well. So if you're hanging it on a black shepherd's crook, this is just one more way to protect them from that. And then frogs and fish. So I know this one sounds crazy, but the hummingbirds will fly over the pond to catch the insects and things hovering over the water. And when they're doing that, the frogs or the fish will pop up and grab the hummingbirds. So again, that's kind of a natural thing. So there's not a whole lot you can do about that. And then the cats. And again, that's a big risk to all of our songbirds. So keeping cats indoors, encouraging your neighbors to keep them indoors. If you have feral cats or outdoor cats in your neighborhood, hang your hummingbird feeders away from shrubs and bushes so those cats can't hide under the bushes and then pop up and grab the hummingbirds. So in that case, you want your hummingbird feeders out in an open area where those cats can't hide under there and then just be waiting to grab those hummingbird feeders or hummingbirds. Okay, so avoiding pesticides. This is just some ways we can help. Obviously, avoiding pesticides, and talk to neighbors, talk to friends, share those articles as they pop up on social media. You never know who may take the time to read it that had no clue. Planting for the hummingbirds, red and orange tubular shaped flowers, bee balm, cardinal flower, jewelweed, trumpet creeper. There's a list of some. Hey, Chip, would you grab me? You know what I'm going to ask for? So he comes, he just, no, I actually need the green, the one to put the corn in. The green. He comes so he can be my runner, because I always think as I'm going through here of things that I forget. So you can pick these up just about anywhere, and they're designed for putting corn in to feed the squirrels. So what you can do with these, when you have fruit that's going bad, or you can even just take a banana that's gotten a little too mushy, if you're like me, that banana has like a 12-hour window where it's good to be eaten. You can put that fruit in here. Those fruit flies will come to this, so don't hang it right outside your door. Take it a little further out in the yard. But when those fruit flies come, then those hummingbirds will come and gather the fruit flies. So this is just a real cheap little thing, but also, you went to the grocery store with the best intentions and you bought all that fruit, and then it goes bad really quickly because wasn't so much fun to cut it up and eat it. So instead of watching it waste, you can cut it up, put it here, and say you bought it for the hummingbirds. Or any type of basket that you can put out there and pop some of that fruit in and just let it feed the hummingbirds and the fruit flies. When you're choosing your hummingbirds, look for red hummingbird feeders, not yellow. Yellow attracts the bees. We're trying to feed the hummingbirds, not the bees. So look for feeders that have red on them, not yellow. And then I already hit on this earlier, but put multiple feeders in multiple locations. So right now, while we're waiting for the hummingbirds to get here, I have one hummingbird feeder in the backyard and one in the front yard. So I'm watching those. One of them that I have out is a smart feeder. We have those here in the store, and they're really super cool because, like today, we had a lull between customers. I pulled it up and we're all watching to see if any hummingbirds had come to it today. So it takes video and pictures, and you can see if any hummingbirds have been there yet. But so put your hummingbird feeders a couple different locations, and then you can start to build the numbers as your population starts to increase. Nesting material, we already talked about that. And a lot of the other songbirds will grab that nesting material as well. And then choosing a feeder, what are you going to look for? I already said avoid that yellow, unless it's bees you want to feed instead of hummingbirds. But if you have a lot of bees on your feeder, you will see fewer hummingbirds there. So you need to try to avoid the number. Easy to clean feeders, that is one of the reasons I love this style feeder. It just comes apart, easy to clean, instead of trying to get in the brush and dig around there, the old bottle brushes, and try to get in there. Perches, I already mentioned, are a plus. Drip free. So the older style, or the ones that have been around forever, where the bottle's up here and then your openings that are coming out here, they are just always going to drip because you're fighting gravity on those. So just know that if that's your preferred style, you're probably always going to deal with the dripping, and you're probably always going to deal with the bees. Look for ant moats. This particular one, again, this center is open here. You fill that with water. When the ants try to crawl down to the nectar, they drown in there, so they don't get to the nectar. If you have a different style, you can purchase ant moats that you just add on to your hummingbird feeder, and then you would just hang your hummingbird feeder under here. Again, when your ants come down, they drown in that water and they're not able to get to your nectar. Anytime insects get into your nectar, it's going to spoil your nectar much quicker. Again, avoid yellow. This style feeder, you can put bee guards on. These little things save my marriage. My husband's a beekeeper. So these are little tips that you can put on this style feeder. These cannot go on all style feeders. So you'll want to check and see if the style you have, if you're able to put nectar guard tips on there. But if so, that's a great way to keep the bees out, because again, if those bees can get into it, they will drown in there. Not only is a bee loss, but your nectar is going to go bad much quicker. Okay, and then your nectar recipe. We're not going to use brown sugar, honey, no organic sugar. We're going to use just plain sugar. 1 part white sugar, 4 parts water, and you're going to keep it refrigerated. If you wouldn't drink it, don't serve it to them. So if it's been hanging outside for 2 weeks, it is time to change it. Again, clear hummingbird feeders are best because you'll be able to see when it starts going cloudy if your hummingbird feeder is clear. As soon as you see it starting to go cloudy, it's time to change it. Right now, you can leave it out 7 days or so. If you add, there's a product called Nectar Defender. You can add that to it. It's a copper natural part of their diet. That will extend the life expectancy about 2 times the normal. So I only use this stuff because I don't want to be changing it. When it gets into the hot heat of the summer, you're going to be changing it every 2 to 3 days. So if you add Nectar Defender, you're going to double that life expectancy. So that's the way to go in my book. And then a hummingbird's tongue is longer than their beak. So remember that they can get all the way to the bottom. So don't fill that hummingbird feeder up because you're just going to be changing it often anyway, so you can save your nectar. I use that particular bottle that is shown there. I mix the nectar up. I put that Nectar Defender right in there. I shake it up, fill it, put it in the fridge until the next time, which also reminds me to check my hummingbird feeders to make sure that if they need changed or not. And then I've already covered a lot of this. Make sure on your ports that you're actually using a brush to clean those little openings. This little brush is just kind of, this is a package of 3 here, and they separate them to show you. They kind of look like a mascara brush, but it helps you to get in there and clean it. Good hot water, vinegar. Try to avoid soap. If you're changing it often so it's not molding or anything, you'll be able to get by with just changing it or cleaning it with vinegar water, and then you can just rinse it and refill it. If it did get moldy, then you'll want to use 1 part bleach, 9 parts water, rinse it really well, let it dry, and then refill it. But it's better to use less chemicals when possible. If you do wash it with soap, you're going to want to super duper, super rinse it to make sure that you got all that dishwashing soap out of there. When you refill your hummingbird feeder, make sure not to splash any nectar on the outside. The easiest way to do it is take this right outside with you. Take your little pitcher out of your nectar, refill it right out there. Again, you're not going to overfill it. Drop your lid right on and hang it up. The reason we don't want to get nectar on the outside, if you do, those bees will find that in a heartbeat. They're going to send out a scout who's going to find it, and he's going to go tell all of his friends where to find the freshest nectar in town. Then you're going to have to take your feeder down for a few days to chase those bees away before you can put it back up. So the easy button is just not to spill any. So that's why I was saying again that those ones with the bottle and the gravity that are drip, drip, dripping, that just sets you up for bees. So try to avoid those if you can. Okay, then we're going to talk about hand feeding. Another thing I love about this, I was just telling a couple team members this evening, this little hole in the bottom, I know they put that there for me to put my finger in to hold these feeders. So what I do is I'll go out to fill my feeders, and then I go out there and just stand and hold it with my phone like this. You can see that's a little boy coming down to eat there. And they are totally comfortable with you. You have been filling their feeders. They need to bulk up. So they're totally cool with you coming down. It doesn't take any special talents or skills to be able to feed hummingbirds. Okay, on this one, hummingbirds prefer to eat from a raised perch, which on these feeders, this perch is kind of raised. If I can angle it so you can see that. That perch is raised. So if you watch this, once the hummingbird starts to eat, I lift my finger up and it sits down. So kind of watch this one. Okay, now I want you to watch one more thing. I'm going to play that one again. I want you to look at the neck on this one. I talked about the juvenile males and having that gray striping. This one is actually a juvenile male. Nope, he did not want to be paused. Hopefully you got to see that gray striping so you'll know what to look for later in the summer as you start to have those juveniles showing up. Okay, couple other things. There is, if you're having problems with ants showing up and you're not able, maybe they're getting all over the pole or the window or wherever, we do have a cinnamon oil that can be used as well, which can be helpful. You can put it on the pole. You just put a tiny little thread of it and the ants won't cross it. So that's a good option as well. We do have a window feeder that can be used. I absolutely love this one. It just hooks on the window, still has the ant moat, so that's a nice one too. And still has the little piece that comes out to be filled, or you can hold it to feed the hummingbirds. So that's a good option. And then that one that I showed you, this one where you can feed them. We also, if you're working with the little ones to feed, there is a ring that you can use too. So if you're just not sure you're steady enough, or if you want to do it with the kids, there's a ring that you can put on your finger so that then you can just sit in a chair and rest your hand. So Hummer rings are another one that are great to use for hand feeding. Oops. Okay, what questions does everyone have? I'm going to take this off.
Okay, well, thank you,
Okay.
Barb. I really love that you are at your store because you can show us all of the things that you're talking about, and that's super helpful. Okay, so one question we have is, can you put your hummingbird feeder on the same pole as your regular bird feeders?
Yes, you'll get more hummingbirds if they're separate. However, Chip, would you grab me a perch? So you will get more hummingbird feeders, hummingbirds coming. If you have a really busy feeding station, you would be better off putting them somewhere else. If you're somebody like me that has like, my husband's snickering in the background, that maybe has 11 feeding stations in my yard, I have one of these on each one of mine. So those that know our pole system, this is the branch that can be put on. It pushes it out away from the pole system a bit. And so when it's on the pole, it sits out about probably 18 inches or so from the pole. And then I just hang it from the very edge. So I tend to put these on a lot of my pole systems. And what that does is gives me those multiple feeders all around the yard so that I don't have those hummingbirds hoarding the feeders. I also put one on the front porch, the back, try to get them out of sight of each other when you can. In the beginning, when I'm first trying to attract them in, I don't hang any from trees because I want them out in plain view so they're easier to see. With that said, hummingbirds can find the red on a feeder from 3/4 of a mile away. So it is easier to find. But if you take it and hide it under a tree, it's going to take longer to get those first hummingbirds in. So the short answer is yes, you can put it on a pole, but you're going to get more hummingbirds in if you can put some elsewhere. But it's a good way to put some for backup feeders around the yard.
When is the best time to put out nesting material?
Um, if I put mine out, I go ahead and put it out the same time I put my hummingbird feeders out because the tufted titmice and the Carolina wrens also like to use it. And then in the late fall, the goldfinches like to use it as well. So I have mine out pretty much all summer. So I put it out now and it'll just hang there. If you're going to put it out and it's not in a place that's sheltered, you could put a weather guard over it if you want, but it's designed to dry quickly. That's why it's safe to use for nesting material. So even if it gets wet, it's a type of material that's going to dry pretty quickly, so you don't have to shelter it.
Okay, and I think you said they use like dandelion fluff, so it would be in
Yeah.
place of that, like it's similar.
Hmm.
Okay, all right. Um, and you might have had it on your slide, but I missed it. How high up are their nests?
10 to 40 feet.
No wonder they're hard to find. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So good luck.
Okay. Um, what is the best practice of care for the feeder? Oh, I think you did cover this, but just let's make sure. I read that above 80 or 85 degrees, you need to wash them daily to prevent bacteria growing. Is that true?
Um, I wouldn't say daily, but 80 degrees, if it's indirect sunlight, then you're probably looking at every 3 to 5 days. But again, if you can add that nectar defender to it, you're going to double that length of time. So that's going to make your life much easier.
And I guess
Yeah.
the weather guards kind of keep it a little shaded,
The
so that
the
might help.
weather guard helps. And again, if you're in direct sunlight, if you're putting like mine on my porch does much better than the one in the backyard that's in plain sun. And then, like I said, by using the clear ones, it's very easy to just tell, like when it's starting to turn cloudy.
Okay. You were mentioning how they show up here because they migrate. How many miles do hummingbirds travel per day during migration?
That I
Any idea?
actually don't know.
Okay. Well, they can go fast from what you were saying, but
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
wonder for how far. So,
Right.
and
Yeah.
and you said they go to Mexico, right? Like the ones
Yeah.
we have here, Panama
Panama
and
and
Mexico.
Cuba. Yeah.
So the ones we have here go all the way there when they migrate?
Again,
Or
that I'm not
oh,
positive
okay.
where ours land. That's just
Oh,
the
okay.
general area where they spend their winters.
Oh, I see. I see. Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
without putting trackers on them, it would be hard to know where one's from a specific area.
Oh, sure. Sure. Um, are hummingbirds bothered by extremely loud noises, such as Navy jets in my backyard, for instance?
I think probably all birds are, but I think they come to adjust to things like that. I think now more fireworks and things like that that happen sporadic are a bigger concern. But I think like the Navy jets and things that happen regularly, they get acclimated to.
Okay,
Kind of
just
similar to our pets, they get used to those normal sounds, but when all of a sudden it's the 4th of July and everybody's putting off fireworks, that's a whole different ball game.
And the bird question for you, Barb, is my hummingbird feeder is near a bird nest, nest above in the nest is in a balcony above it. Will that disturb them?
Has the birds always have they always nested there? Or is it a new nest this year? Yeah, then obviously
Oh,
I'd
yeah.
say it's not bothering them.
Okay.
Uh, And I was going to say, if it would bother anybody, it would bother the nesting bird. Um, uh, Hummingbirds are bothered by very little. There's just such gutsy little birds. But if the nesting bird, I was going to say, if it was a new nest this year that's just been started, then I would say, maybe you want to move the hummingbird this year to a little bit different location. But if that bird nests there every year and they know you hang a hummingbird, they're just fine. I've got the same situation. I have a Carolina wren that nests in a gourd every year, and she knows that, like, what, probably 2.5 feet from there, there's going to be a hummingbird feeder, and they don't seem to care. So and nature gets along better than humans, I think.
And if it ain't broke, you don't have to fix it, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Um, uh, do you know, do hummingbirds have a call? Like, do they make noise?
They do make a little squeak noise. So for anybody that uses the Merlin app, it will pick them up. And if you don't know what the Merlin app is, it's a cool free app that you can add to your phone. Yeah, the Merlin app is a really cool app that it's a free app. You'll download it to your phone, and then you want to download the pack for our area, the bird pack for our area. And so you'll go out and you'll hit that, and then you would just hit Sound ID, and it will listen for the bird sounds around your area. Now, it doesn't always get them right, but what it will do is it'll flash the bird that's making the call, and you'll quickly learn to ID a lot of those common bird sounds. So you'll see it flash ruby-throated hummingbird, and then you'll start to put the sound together with, oh, that sound is the hummingbird, but they kind of make a little shrill, squeaky sound.
I love the Merlin app.
Yeah, it's
So cool.
every morning right now, since it's migration season has just begun. When I take the dogs out, I hit it and let it play while I'm out there. A couple days ago, the black and white warblers returned. And so that's what I can see, who most birds migrate overnight. And so first thing in the morning, you can see like who returned. And it's like, oh, the black and white warblers came back last night.
So
True
cool.
Bernard.
Just so fun to find out what's, in the woods around you.
Yeah, and it's a great way to learn to ID the birds by sound too, because you'll see it flash on who is making that call.
Yeah. Um, so Liz said not a question about hummingbirds, but a future Zoom idea. Do you know anything about purple martins?
That
I've,
is definitely not a specialty for me.
mhm. I don't think they come to bird feeders, do they?
They do not come to bird feeders. We do sell their houses and the poles. We sell the starling resistant houses here just because starlings do love to take over their houses. So for that reason, we sell the starling resistant ones to try to help you prevent those. They will be coming back soon. They'll be sending their scouts out. So if you're thinking about getting one up, it's time to be doing that. They send the scouts out first. They are great for mosquito deterrence. Um, but you do need a good yard for them. Um, you want certain things, you want an open space because they're going to fly around and grab insects out of your yard. You want a water source nearby. So they're not housing that you can put in every yard.
Okay. Oh, and a question about bluebirds. How many broods do bluebirds have per year?
3. 3
Mm.
broods per year.
They're overachievers.
Yes, and they have just started nesting. They're a little slow to nest this year. My guess is because it's been cooler this year, natural food shortage this year
Mm.
because of the drought. Holly bushes, most holly bushes did not set on berries this year. So my guess, if I had to guess, I would say they're delaying the start of their nesting because they want to make sure, even though they know you feed them, they don't rely on humans for their foods. Birds only get about 10% of their food from our feeders, so they will not count on us to raise their young. So they want to make sure that there's going to be food sources out there when it's time to feed the young. So if I had to guess, I would say that's why they're a little slow to start with the nesting this year. But we are starting within the last week. Last couple weeks, we're starting to see people, they're putting nests down. Some of them have put some started nests and are just kind of using them as placeholders right now. But don't get discouraged if you don't have anybody nesting in your bluebird houses yet.
Oh, yeah. Um, oh, there was a question about finches nesting in the front door wreath. Um, what if I get a finch nesting in my front door wreath? Like, is there anything you can do about it? Patricia said last year the babies died in July heat.
Yeah, so I will recommend, Chip, can you grab me a couple of the flat pieces around? I recommend taking those wreaths down right now because it's not a great location for them to nest. We have some flat decorative wall door hangers that you can put out. So you still have something on that. I know a lot of us have marks on our door from our wreaths, so we don't want to just take it down because we don't want to have to paint the door. So we do have some flat wall hanging pieces that you can put up. Uh, here's one. This one's like a two-sided one, so you can change it seasonally. And we have some different ones that we bring in specifically for that purpose to give you options. Here's another one Chip has. So just something flat like this that you can put on your door. But go ahead and get those wreaths down is my recommendation. Because even if you and your family know those wreaths are there, those delivery people are not, I'm throwing honey around and everything here. Uh, so those delivery people that come up, get startled by the bird, or the neighbor kids when you're not around, realize there's birds there and they just want to hold the cute little baby. And so really, my recommendation is try to avoid letting them nest there.
Oh, Sabrina said she just got bluebird neighbors last week. Congratulations.
Yay.
Um, and Patricia had said thanks for the door hanging tip. The birds were stealing the vines off the wreath anyway. So it's good for everybody.
Yeah, if you want them to nest, if you still want to give them a spot to nest, I put a geranium or any kind of hanging basket up early in the year that you can hang, and they'll use that to nest too. So you can put some kind of hanging flower basket and they'll nest in that, and that's just a safer option that you hang from your porch rail or somewhere if you've got a spot like that. They can use that instead. It's just the other problem with the wreaths is snakes can come right up your door and get to that
Oh,
wreath. And you also don't want to open your door and find that
yeah, no
either.
kidding.
I know
What
we
an
like to
unhappy
think they can't
surprise.
climb, but they sure can climb.
Oh, well, what a segue, because Melania just asked while you were saying that if birds will nest in hanging ferns.
Yes, they absolutely
Yes, they
will.
will.
Yeah, any kind of hanging baskets like that. Now you do still run the risk depending on, the space in that of snakes potentially getting in those,
Mm.
but it's a safer option than a wreath. So, where mine is, fortunately, it's vinyl posts, so they can't get there. But if you've got wood, across, it's going to be a little bit easier, and your porch rails are, your uprights are closer. So you may want to look at that too. And if not, if you choose to put it there, don't reach down into the basket without looking first.
Oh, I never thought about that. So snakes can't attach, like they can't climb on vinyl, but whereas they
I
could climb
I
on wood.
won't say they can't,
Oh, okay.
but ours is far enough apart that then the top piece is like a piece of plastic that where it would have to come across the top.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, we have several people saying thanks for the great class. They always learn so much and they really appreciate it, Barb.
Yeah, thank you all.
Great to get all the cool tips.
Absolutely.
Okay. And the next program that we have is June 3rd, and it's going to be Bird Feeding 101. So this is good if you have friends or family members who are new to it. Be a great place for them to get started, to get all the basics so that they can get the most out of it. Thank you as always. It's great to learn from all of your great knowledge.